Today, I will be talking about the role of men in pregnancy and childbirth in late 18th and early 19th century Ulster. When I say men, I'm referring to non-medical men, or those who did not practice medicine in any sort of professional capacity. So men as husbands, men as fathers, men as brothers, and men as friends. Men are almost non-existent in histories of pregnancy and childbirth. We are told that these events were largely controlled and managed by women to the exclusion of men. Childbirth itself even took place in a designated area of the home known as the birthing chamber, a space to which men were not permitted entry. Outside of the interventions of male medical practitioners, we are told that the role played by ordinary men was restricted to three main outlets. They fetched those who were to attend the birth, they awaited news of the birth with the company of their male friends, or they paid a midwife for her services. Today, however, I want to offer you an alternative to this picture of childbirth, and in doing so, I hope to restore men to their forgotten place in the birthing room. Drawing largely on the example of Alexander Crawford, an Ulster Presbyterian minister, this paper will argue that some men were not only interested in the events of pregnancy and childbirth, but they actively supported their wives during birth and the days that followed. Childbirth and its rituals may have been governed by gendered conventions, but they were not fixed and immovable. Furthermore, while each of the men who are the subject of this paper shared a number of important characteristics, they identified as Presbyterian, they were educated, and they were drawn from the middling orders of society. Their examples nonetheless offer interesting insights into the engagement that ordinary men had with pregnancy, maternal health, and childbirth. So, who are the Crawfords and why are they worth studying? Alexander Crawford was born on the 12th of November 1790 in Peebles, Scotland. After graduating from Edinburgh University in 1822, he earned his first ministerial appointment as a missionary in India. In the weeks before his departure, he married his sweetheart, Anna Gardner. The Crawfords were married for 33 years, and during this period, they travelled extensively from Scotland to India, England, and finally Ireland, as Alexander carved out his ministerial career. Over the course of their marriage, the Crawfords witnessed the births of 10 children, 3 of whom were born in India, 1 on the seas off the coast of the Isle of Man, 1 in Scotland, 2 in England, and 3 in Ireland. While the circumstances of each of these births varied, with some taking place without any medical assistance and in different geographical settings, one factor remained constant: the role played by Crawford. As a husband and father, Crawford earned a reputation among his wider family circle as a nurse to his wife for the attentions he paid her both during and after childbirth. For instance, writing to her sister Helen after the birth of her 6th child in February 1833, Anna praised Alexander for his assistance and boasted that a more careful, tender nurse cannot be than my dear husband. Likewise, writing to Anna in August 1828 after the birth of her 3rd child, her mother, Christina Gardner, remarked that she was well satisfied Anna did not miss her company, as she had her dear husband, who is better than all her friends together. Anna's father also remarked that he was happy to hear of his daughter's favourable recovery under the instrumentality of nursing care that was provided by Alexander. Stories that tell of the involvement of non-medical men during pregnancy and childbirth, like that of Crawford, offer us the opportunity to resituate men in the birthing chamber as husbands, fathers, and brothers. Indeed, the various descriptions of Crawford as nurse to his wife raise many questions. As a father and husband, what understanding did he have of his wife's pregnancies? As a man without any professional medical training, how did he assist her in his capacity of nurse? How does his involvement fit with this perception of childbirth as a gendered activity? Does Crawford's example tell us something knew about men, pregnancy, and childbirth? So it's these questions that we will now turn. So, excuse me, nausea, vomiting, fullness of the breast, and lethargy were just some of the accepted signs of pregnancy during our period. That men were aware of these symptoms and the impact they had on their wives' health might seem an obvious point to make, but it is an important one. Exploring how men discuss pregnancy and maternal health reveals the degree of understanding that they possessed of these female events. Indeed, the fact that men discuss these topics at all suggests that the minutiae of these occasions were not shrouded by an impenetrable gendered boundary closed off to the gaze of male observers. Letters written by the Crawfords reveal that men were aware of how pregnancy affected their wives' bodies. For example, Crawford kept up a regular correspondence with his brother-in-law, William Campbell Gardner, and the pair frequently exchanged stories of the confinements, the births, and the health of their families. So, for example, retelling the story of the birth of their nephew Thomas, Gardner expressed his gratitude that their sister-in-law Margaret had been able to nurse the infant herself, and how breastfeeding had promoted her health. I never saw her look so stout and healthy-like, nor in better spirits. Likewise, he also revealed his knowledge of the poor health of a family friend named Anna Christie, who was expected soon to be confined in the family way, adding that her skeletal appearance had caused concern that she would not be able to carry the pregnancy to term. Indeed, the Crawford letters reveal that other aspects of maternal health, such as breastfeeding, were by no means taboo subjects for their male members. In a letter to Anna's sister Helen, for example, Alexander recalled the problems that Anna was having in breastfeeding, explaining, noting that she had very sore nipples. Indeed, in a later letter, Anna even asked Helen to let her 7-year-old son know that she was able to give baby a suck without pain, explaining that he had often sympathized with the trouble she had in breastfeeding his sister Olivia. The fact that John, that was the child's name, as a young male child was not shielded from the realities of breastfeeding is important, as it reveals that the gendered boundaries of the family were fluid and flexible. The inclusion of boys in discussions of breastfeeding and other aspects of maternal health may also explain the knowledge and interest that non-medical men held in pregnancy and childbirth. In addition to pregnancy and maternal health, the Crawford letters also provide interesting insights into the roles that men played in childbirth itself. The Crawford letters reveal that Alexander was an active participant in his wife's labours and offered care in the days that followed. So the fullest description of the role that he played during childbirth can be found in a letter he wrote to Anna's parents after the birth of their son James, born in India in February 1826. In preparation for the birth, the couple, along with their friend Mrs. Cooper, relocated from their home in order to be in closer proximity to a medical doctor. As it happened, however, Mrs. Cooper's presence with the Crawfords proved invaluable, as the doctor who was to oversee the delivery contracted fever in the days preceding the birth, and he had vacated the area. Faced with the prospect of no medical assistance, Crawford procured the assistance of a local woman, and together with Mrs. Cooper, the two women safely delivered James. So what was Alexander's role? Well, aside from acquiring the services of a female attendant, the depth of detail that Alexander included in what he called the little history of the event that he sent to Anna's parents suggests that not only was he present during the birth, but he was in close enough proximity to know the timing of events as they occurred. So on the morning of the 16th at 12:30, my dear Anna was assured the event could not be far. At 1 o'clock, the regular pains commenced with 5 minutes of interval, and in 3/4 of an hour, James was one of our company. 55 minutes after that, the remaining part of the labour was over. By that time, he was dressed and had had his bowels opened and was commenced to suck his hand. Before 4 o'clock, all was over. Alexander's account also reveals how he took on the role of a assistant in the hours following the birth, keeping watch over both Anna and his son. Throughout the day, Anna slept a good deal, and baby had another 3 motions in his bowels, and during the night, both were nicely refreshed by sleep. James cried a little, and I gave him a little dabby, and now, 1 o'clock, when all are washed and dressed, everything is all right, all well. Such an intimate knowledge of the delivery as it occurred in real time suggested Alexander was not standing on the periphery of the birthing chamber looking in, but that he was involved as a concerned father and supportive husband. Moreover, despite the presence of 2 female attendants, he remained in this role. While it could be argued that the specific circumstances of James's birth rendered his involvement unusual, evidence survives would suggest the opposite. Whether the family were based in India or England, Crawford appears to have been a willing and ready source of assistance to his wife. Indeed, we can gain a more complete picture of the duties he fulfilled by examining those letters that detail Anna's lying-in periods. So after the birth of her second son in India in 1828, Anna wrote a letter to her father in which she described her recovery. According to Anna, this time she had felt very little loss of strength, and she kept to bed for just 5 days and returned to her usual family duties within 8 days of giving birth. In addition to acknowledging the assistance she had received from her friends, Anna commended Alexander for the unremitting care and attention that he had shown her. According to Anna, Crawford had remained in the house for the full 8 days she lay in and was always at hand to see how she was going on. It is also important to note that Crawford's assistance was not occasioned by either Anna's ill health or her slow recovery, as Anna herself had noted that her convalescence this time was speedy. Rather, his attention seemed to have been normal practice. Similarly, after the birth of her 5th child in February 1833, while the family were living in Brampton Park, England, Alexander made sure his wife was cared for and comfortable. In a letter to her sister Helen in the month following the birth, Anna recalled how Crawford had moved his bed into her room and attended her during the night, earning him the title of a careful and tender nurse. I love this bit too, how she says that she's surprised how he can go through so much labour, and she's just given birth. So the stories and experiences recorded by the Crawford family intimate that men played a much larger role in pregnancy and childbirth than has been previously suggested. As husbands, brothers, and fathers, the Crawford men were interested in the events of childbirth, and they were neither completely ignorant of what was going on, nor were they entirely excluded from participating as a matter of convention. The question that remains, however, is how representative these conclusions are of the experience of men in general. Similar, although fragmentary, examples of men's interest and involvement in pregnancy and childbirth can also be found in other sources. For example, diary entries made by the Reverend Robert McGill, minister of First Antrim Presbyterian Congregation, County Antrim, revealed that he monitored his wife's changing condition during pregnancy. In the months preceding the birth of his son, his wife took ill, and he anxiously recorded in his diary the state of her health, the medical treatments that she was receiving, and whether or not she was confined to bed. The interest that he took in his wife's condition did not end with the birth of his children, but persisted throughout her lying-in period. He continued to note in his diary whether or not she had left the house, visited friends, or attended Sabbath services. For McGill, these little outings were evidences of Anne Jane's recuperation and reintegration into the normal pattern of everyday life. Like Alexander Crawford, Robert also appears to have been on hand and ready to assist his wife both during and after childbirth. In November 1828, for example, he recorded how he had sat up all evening with his wife when she went into premature labour. Indeed, it is apparent from his diary that McGill was present during each of his wife's 3 deliveries. Brief diary entries detailing the events included a list of his wife's attendants, the sums of money he paid to her medical doctors, and the goods he offered in kind to those women who had also provided assistance. A similar example can also be found in the diary of the Reverend James Morrell, who was minister of Ballybay Congregation, County Monaghan. In an entry dated the 10th of March 1816, he recorded how his wife had presented him with a fine boy about 5:30 that morning, and that she was but a short time ill. The only indication that Morrell had been involved to some degree in either the delivery or the care of his wife afterwards was his admission that he had preached an old sermon that Sabbath, as he had not time to make much preparation for the service that evening. Although fragmentary, these examples suggest that it was not altogether unusual for ordinary men to be involved in the events of childbirth. So some conclusions. As the examples in this paper have shown, some men were not only interested in the events of pregnancy and childbirth, they also provided comfort and support to their wives in the days that followed. As husbands, fathers, brothers, and even as sons, these men took an interest in the health and well-being of their female family members, and they were neither excluded from discussions of female health nor shielded from the realities of practices such as breastfeeding. Like other aspects of family life, the roles played by its members were fluid and flexible and constantly renegotiated. Gendered boundaries may have existed, but they were not fixed and immune to change. While much of this discussion has been centred on families from the middling ranks of society, its conclusions may also help to shed light on the experience of men from other social classes. By focusing on men within the context of the family, as husbands, brothers, and fathers, it is possible to shed light on their roles as careful, tender nurses. Thank you. Can I just grab some water? Sorry.
Thank you very much, Leanne.
Thanks.
A very interesting presentation. I'd like to ask, first of all, the panel if